Hello everyone, so welcome back again to Netcode-Hub channel. In this channel, we create applications, that's web applications and also mobile applications using .NET framework. So this time around, we are focusing on Blazor, and we have started a project that is a real estate or estate app application to get us a room for sale for rent, and also how to book, make a reservation, how to do a lot of stuff here. But we are building this application sometimes, so bit by bit. In the first video, that's the initial video, we were able to design this UI. The user interface that you see here was a template that we took from, I think one of the templates from teamswagon.com, or is it? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so we took it from there. And now when you check the link here, I'm going to leave the link to this template under the description, so you can grab exactly the same or any other template of your choice and try to implement it in the Blazor WebAssembly or the server model. So that is what we did in the previous video. Now let's go through a little bit. So we created a separate component. So we have our home as our index. We have the about. We have our properties over here. So we have property list. We have the type, and we have the agents and search here. Okay, so aside from that, we have a testimonial. So here you can make a search out of this by selecting the location that you want, the project type, and also the keyword that you want to set. So we have testimonials, and you can see we have contact ads. We have an ad property. So that is the UI that we designed or we implemented. We did not actually design this from scratch. We just implemented it from a well-created template already. So as you can see from here too, we have our footer nicely created, and there's also our header also at this area. Okay, so this is what we did. Now there is no database attached to this update one. We're going to learn how to create a database and attach it to this application that we have created. Because when you create an application without a database, where can you store data? It becomes difficult when you want to get data, you want to update the application, you want to add a new feature to it, you want to write something, it becomes very important. Because you have to get a database for you to have access to the software or the web that you have created. So that is exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to just create a web API, and we're going to create our connection string. We're going to create a database and all stuff. And later by the day, we're going to add them to this application to make it complete. So this is going to be an update one. There's going to be a subsequent update two as well. So after creating our API, we're going to talk about maybe how to create login, how to get access to all the various components that we have created, how to get them from the database. So this is a whole project, and it is not by watching it once to get the whole thing done. We have first one video, and it took almost about 1.5 hours to finish with the implementing the design or the UI. Now this is going to be our API 2. We are hoping to use maybe 1 hour exactly to finish this. Then we can now talk about how to create a login, how to get connected from the components, call services, web services, and get data, how to make a search, and all those stuff. So these are going to come as an update. So stay tuned and make sure you subscribe to the channel as well, so that as soon as I upload an update, you're able to see to watch it as well and learn something in a Blazor programming environment. Okay, so let's start. Now let's go to our source. So this is my Visual Studio, as you can see from here. Now when I go to my Solution Explorer, you can see I have the various components, and as I speak, the current version that I'm using for the .NET framework, it is a 7.0, although we have 8.0 as a preview, but I'm using 7.0 now. Okay, so that is a Visual Studio in Mac. So these are the components that we created under the shed. We have footer, we have our header, we have our search component. So we created 2 search components at a time in the first video, but I think we're going to use only the first one So we can get rid of this, the schema as set component. We can get rid of this because we don't need this for now or anymore. Okay, so aside from that, we have our spinner. It's also a component. And when you go to our pages, we also added the various components about us, contact, index, property agent, property list, property type, and testimonial. So these are the components that you just added. Now, aside from that, we went to the index file and also our static folder and added the necessary style sheet and also the script files. Okay, so let's see. Now, I think let's see, I made a mistake here under the writing of the contact. So let's try to fix that before we have any issue trying to navigate to this page. So that might be a contact. Okay, so I can now save this. And now also let's go to the index page under the static file, www root folder. And now you can see we have our folder as libraries, which contains all the necessary style sheet and also the script files. Example of these are the bootstrap, animate.me.ts, bootstrap icon, and font awesome.ts. So these are the style sheet that we added. And also when you come to the script, we have the bootstrap, we have the font awesome, we have jQuery, we have using carousel, waypoint, and wow, and also the main.js. So these are the JavaScript files that we have to add to our project. And by making a reference, we have to make sure the file actually exists in a www folder. This was what we did in the first video. This time around, we're not focusing on the UI, but I want to focus on the API. So when you go to your project, you can see we have 3 separate projects added. We have the client section, and that's what we've done with the UI by Blazor. The second one here is the server, and that's we're going to use the actual C# for the API. So, and the last one is the class library that holds data for both the API, the server, and the client. So let's start going. But before that, we have to install some packages that you're going to be using in our database creation. So let's go to the server, then right click on dependencies, and also click on manage NuGet packages. And now let's wait for the package to get open. Then we're going to install entity framework core, entity framework core.sql server, and also .tools. So that is what we're going to install now. So now we have this launch, that's a NuGet package. Now let's go to search, and now let's type in the entity framework. So let's install entity framework first. So let's make sure we are connected to the internet. And you can see the package source is .NET.org. So let's install this. So click on add package, and I can see it is added it over here. So if you're using Windows, then do the same, right click on dependencies, then you go to add NuGet package, you then have to add this package. Let's do the same thing because we are not done yet. We have to also add the necessary components or the packages as well. So we go to the same place, and now here we're going to use tools. We're going to use entity framework core.tools. So after that, we have to, so there's the tool that I am talking about, Microsoft.entity framework core.tools. Let's add this package. So we're going to add that one as well. And also we have to add the SQL server. So let's also add SQL server too. We pass in SQL server. So that's the Microsoft.entity framework core.sql server. So let's also add this package. Now the last one is, since we want to try our API, we want to install the Swagger. So the Swagger is from the Swashbuckle. So let's install that package as well, Swashbuckle. Now Swashbuckle contains the UI and the Swagger itself. So let's get a Swashbuckle. So swash supposed to be H first. So Swashbuckle and Swashbuckle.ASP.NET Core, because this contains the UI, and the gen. Okay, so we have to install this. Let's click on add package to. So now you can see we're going to wait for this package to get installed. So it has finished installing the SQL, the entity framework. Now it is installing the tools. So now it is installing the server. And at the end of the day, it's going to install the swashbacker.asp.NET Core, and we are done. To verify whether these packages have been installed or not, you know where to go. Click on these dependencies, and you're going to see the list of packages that you have installed and where you can find them here. So as I speak, this is the project. If I click on needed packages, I have the entity framework core installed. I also have tools also installed here, and I am installing SQL Server. And when it is done, it's going to install the other one, that is the Swash backup as well. So let's wait while we get all of these packages installed. So now that it has finished installing, as you can see, swashbacker.asp.NET Core successfully added. When you go to solution, the same place as the packages, you're going to see all of this here. So now let's build application, especially the server side, since we have a new package in the hood. So build this server package. Let's wait for the build to be done. As you can see from here, it has started and we have a progress bar that is progressing when the build progresses as well. So let's wait and get this project installed or built. So while this is building, let's say we can do something else. Let's go to our program.cs file under the server side. And now let's install this Swash backup because we want to actually get the UI to run the API. So let's install that. And now in here, we have to pass in builder.services.add swagger gen. So we add this. So the so that is add swagger gen. So we have to add this. After adding this, so there is a registration. Now, when you add this to the service, you have to configure or using that in the pipeline. And the pipeline is where you see this app.use cases. So in here, let's also call app.use, and this use swagger. And also the same thing, let's also use the UI. So use swagger UI. So we have now configured the Swash backup. So let's save that. And now let's see. So I think it is done. Our build is done successfully, as you can see from here. So two succeeded build. Now, so all you have to do here is we have to create our connections thing. So let's create a folder in this. So right click on the server project. Now let's add a new folder to the project. So this folder, we are going to name it as data. So this is data folder. And now let's create a class to this data folder. So new class. And now this class, we want to name it as app.db context. That stands for application DB context. So it's an empty class. And now this class is going to inherit from DB context because you know that is what you use. It's part of the entity framework core, so DB context. It is part of the entity framework core that we installed. So control period, I'm going to grab that. So let's see. So click on this light symbol, light bulb. Let's use this entity framework core. And also, what we can do again here is we can generate constructor too. So click on the same area and now generate a constructor and now pass in this option. You can grab this app.db context from this, and here we can place it in here as a t value. So we place it and we are done. So let's create our model. Now in this, let's come to our shared project. In our shared project, you can see we have a default class weather forecast. Let's delete that because we don't need any default class over here. Now let's come to the project. I click on add. Let's add a new folder. So the folder here, let's create as entities. So there's our entities. Now in our entities, what you want to do, let's add a new class. Now this is what you want to do. Now if you come to application and you go to the home, you want to get all this data from the database. So you want to get this property, the sell property. You want to grab the price, the apartment, the name, the location, the size, number of bed, number of what bath, and etc. So let's start. The first one is what? The mode. So is it sell, for rent, and also the type as the apartment. So let's see that. So in here, that's going to be a house. Okay. So this house, let's click on create. And let's clear off this constructor. So we have let's PROP. That is the property to generate it. We're going to tap it twice. And now this object. So this object you want to pass in as integer. So this is an integer. And also the next thing here, this is an ID. So there is an ID. So this is ID. And also the next one that we can talk about is we can talk about string. So this string, the type that we are talking about here is the mode. The mode is it for sale or what is it up to? So let's set the mode. Now the next one is the type. So you can talk about the type, and that's also string. And this is type 2. So type. And that is type. Okay. So aside from the type, what else can we grab here? The price, and also the name and the location. So let's go for price. And this price, let's use decimal for the price. Yeah, this is price here. Now let's go for the name. So that is string. And that is name. You can go in for location. So that's the location. Now I talk about size, number of bed, and number of bath. So size. So this is an integer. So this is size. And you can also grab this. You can paste this and I'll paste this. So we have size, and here is number of beds. And the same thing you can actually grab for number of baths. So number of baths. So that is what we have now. So we have number of beds and number of what? Baths. So number of baths. When you check the application here, you will see we have 3 beds, 2 baths over here. We have the size is over here as a square feet, and we have a 3 bed and 2 baths. So that's exactly what you're going to do. Although you can edit it here, so number of beds and number of baths. Let's maintain as a name over there. Okay, so you can save this, and now let's create. We want to tackle daytime. So date created. So created date, and we can set this to daytime. But now, so we created it today. We're gonna have today's date. So we have these are the properties that you want to have. Let's go through and see if you have left out. Okay, so you have to also add the image as well. So we have price, we have size, we have number of bed and bath, we have the mode, and that is the type. And let's go add the image. So this image is going to be a string. So let's pass it here. So this is string. And that is image. Okay, so these are the properties that you're going to have at the house class. Now let's create this. Let's copy this house. Let's go to our AppDB contest. And now in here, we can create our property, and it is DB set. So DB set, we can now create the house, close it up, and now we can name it as houses. Then we can set this to default. So control period, let's include this namespace. So using shared project. Now this is done. Now let's go to our AppDB contest and I'll create our database connection string here. So in here, that is what we are going to do. We're going to create as connection strings. So let's close this. Now in the connection strings, so in the connection string, you can give it a name, let's say default connection. And now this default connection, you also have to specify the server, and here we are using a local host. So I'm going to say local. And aside from that, I'm going to use database. So database is what? Let's say house review. Now aside from that, let's use trusted underscore connection. Let's set this to true. Also, let's say trusted one certificate. Set this also to true. So let's copy this name. Let's save this. Now let's go to program.cs file, and now let's add the connection. So builder.services.add bb context. So here it is, add bb context. Here, so we need to pass in options. Now these options, we have to specify it in this format. So we say options dot use SQL server. Then we can now call this builder.services dot configuration. So configuration. Okay, so instead of using the services, we have to use the configuration instead. And so dot configuration. Oh, so the builder is family stuff. So builder dot configuration dot get connection string. So get connection string. So that is this get connection string. Now let's pass in the name of the connection that we have at hand. So the name of the connection is the default connection. Then we can check, is it equal to now? If so, then true, new, invalid, exception. So we have operation exception. And now this, we can specify. So database connection string. So we can call this default connection. So it does not exist. So that's a true an error in case this connection file is being deleted. So we can put this in a new line. Then we have this vehicle done. The control K, D, can format it well. Okay, so now we have this connection set. What can we do again? We can now run a database command to create our migration. So first of all, let's build the application first. Then we perform a database migration. So how do you build this application? So I click on this server project and I click on build to get it built. So let's wait while the application gets built. So the next thing that we are going to do is we're going to perform a database migration. So migration is very important because EF core, that is entity framework core, create a database that we have specified in an app setting.json, and here it is an house DB database, and also it creates the various tables that we specified inside the app DB context, and that is a house model. So we have to perform migration to get a database created by the help of the EF core. So we did not need to create the manual way or passing the manual way of creating database. No, EF core is going to handle that for us. So first of all, we've built the project, but let's try to build it once more to check if everything is in order. Then we can now move on with it. As you can see, it is building. The progress bar shows the progress that it has gotten up to. So we wait. Okay, so build successful. Now we go to NuGet package manager console. But before that, you can see when you go to the app setting.json, that is the normal way or the default way for all window applications. So here you can set this to true, and that is when using Windows. But you know, when using Mac, there's a different way. You know, Mac we can't use or we can't install SQL Server directly into the computer. So we need to use the Docker to run our SQL Server. So in such case, instead of passing this local like this, we have to specify the TCP and also the port, that is the 1433. And the trusted connection must also be false, okay, because it is running in a different settings, container, that is a Docker. So for Windows, you can maintain this and it's going to work. But for Mac, this one won't work unless you use the other one. And that is what I have here. So let me copy this connection string over here. I'm going to copy this, and in here, I'm going to paste this. Okay. So you can see we have our server, that's the TCP. So we have a local host 127.0.0.1, and that is the port for the SQL Server 1433. This is the default one when you run the Docker. So you can see I have my Docker here, and that is the port that it is running on, 1433. It's around somewhere else here. So let's see. It is over here, 1433. That is the starting or the port that it is looking up to. Okay. So aside from that, what you have to do here is to have a database. So the database here is going to be house. So that is the house DB. That's the database name, or estate DB. Anyhow you want it, you can just put it that way. So estate DB, and now you have a user ID. So that's the ID, and this is my password to the database. Transit connection we set to 4. So this is also very important. And trust server certificate we set this to true. Okay, so let's save this, and now let's rebuild this again. So build this. So let's wait for this to get built, then we perform a migration. So build successful as indicated and down here. Now NuGet package manager. So in here we can use .NET EF migrations, then add create house. So let's see. So C stands for create, C house table. That's my name, the name of the database. Okay, so C is to create house table, and I'm going to pass in as an output to open. There's a folder called data. Open it, create another folder as migration, and I'll put all the files in it. So now let's wait for migration to be done. Now, when this is done, we are going to update the database. So let's wait for it. So build started. Now, since we have built it already, it's going to come soon because you've built it already. Okay, so we see now. Then I recognize migration. So it's supposed to be migrations. Yeah, so let's do it again. So build started. So after this, what you have to do is to perform database update. So this name, we're going to copy CST. So that is why I did not use a long word. Right? So create house table. So those succeeded. And now the next one, so we can now see we have a folder created here as migrations. And now when you open it, we have a file in it known as these two files. Let's update it. So .NET EF update. So .NET EF, that is database update CHT. Now let's run this query to get our database updated. And now the file that has been created is going to run the file and create a database table, and it filled for us. So let's wait for it. So you can see here to project or build started, and now it has succeeded. So it is running the query, and boom, it is done. So we can clear the screen. Good. Now when you go to our table, our database table has now been created. Now what we have to do next is to create our controller. Okay. But before that, I want us to create our service first. So in this entities, let's create, so this is the house. So in accepting house and also displaying house, we can go in for, let's create our module. So in the shared project, right click and now add new folder. So this folder here, we are going to name this folder as, is it view models or yeah, so or DTOs. So DTO. So DTO stands for, or DTO stands for data transfer objects. So that is what you're going to use to get data from the entities and then transfer it to the application, the client. Because in this DTO, we're going to add some attributes or some properties or attributes to the properties stated in this entities. Like example, the house. When filling or when adding house, you want the location or the name or the mode, etc. Okay. So you want to perform that. Now in here, example, so it's like adding the required attribute. Now we can't add a required attribute to this entity because this is what the database table is based on. So we have to create another one. That is what we can use to get those. And that is the database, that is the DTO. So we can grab this. Now, when adding data into the database table, this time it has been set to 8 value already. So we do not need to create any set a value for this. So we're going to grab this. And now when adding, we don't need to add ID. So we're going to use this. But in this, we can use ID. That's an update. Okay. So let's grab the update too. So let's add this ID to, let's copy this. Now let's create a DTO. Let's click on add, then a new class. So this new class, this is going to be, so this is house request. This house request DTO. Okay. House request DTO. Let's create this. And now let's create one more as a house response DTO. So add new class. So house response DTO. So with the response, so let's clear this default constructor. And now here with the request, so request is going to come from the user to the database. That's a request. So let's paste what we have here. So in the request, we don't need ID, but we want to accept what name. So when adding data to the database, we're going to use this request. So we're going to pass in name, mode, type, price, location, size, number of beds, number of bath, image, and that's all. So that's a request when you're creating. Now, when getting data from the database, we can use this, and let's add the other one. So this is a response. So we copy this, and now we go to our response. Now let's paste this. Let's add it because you want to get the ID, you want to get the name, you want to get the mode, and you want also to get the date that we created. So this is a response. So response from the server, getting data, you can get all this. By accepting data from the user, we don't want to accept created date because the created date, it is fixed already in the system and the value has been set. So we have our request and our response. Now we also going to create another folder, and that's going to be a conversion. So this conversion or this converter. Now this converter is going to convert from this DTO into these entities. So first of all, let's create our shed here. So we're going to talk about this later on. Let's move on. Let's create our services. So in the server, now let's close the client because you're not working here. Now let's create a folder. and we're going to name it as repository. So let's add a folder here. And now let's say this is repositories. So we're going to have our house repositories. So let's add another folder here. And this is house repositories. Okay, so in our house repository, let's add an interface. So this interface is going to be iHouse repo. And now let's create an implementation class. So that's going to be a class, take note, and here is just a house repo. So the interface is going to hold all the methods name, but the class is going to hold the definition of the method. Very simple. So iHouse repo, let's create. So we have our task, and we have add house data. So now with this, let's create. I want us also create a response to this. So right click here. Let's add a new folder. And this is responses. So this responses, let's add a new class. And this new class is response. So this response, you want to have so let's create this as a string. Now this string is a message. And also let's have one more. And that's supposed to be bool. So as a flag. Now let's set this to. Let's set this to success. I'm highlighting everything and it is not. So the default value for this, let's set true. Okay, so now you have a response. Let's go to the interface. And now task. Here with the add, we want to return response. So control period. Now let's inject the library or the link, the reference here. So we have add. Let's grab this. And you can also have, let's paste one more. So this add, and here response. This is update. So here is update. Now this is delete. And let's add one more here. So this is get house data. So get single house data. And the last one, let's paste one more. So get all house data. Okay, so we need to pass in some parameters over here and the t value as well. Now we have response. So this add. So when we add, we want to display just a message. If we update, we want to display just a message. If we delete, we want to display just a message. But if you want to get single data, the return is supposed to be your house because we are getting a single data. So that is our house here. Okay. So let's call the model, include the shed, and I can copy the same thing here. So get all house data, this must be a list. Then we pass in the house. So a list of this, also this. Now in the add, there must be an object coming in. So here, there must be this object, that is the DTO. So with the add, we're going to have house DTO. So house request DTO, and we call it as model. So the same to this is update. So in updating, the same thing comes in. We grab this, we paste it, the same model. Now delete, we have to pass in only ID. So we need only ID here. And now when it comes to get all, you don't need any object coming in. So here, get single one, we also need an ID, but the last one is a list, so we don't need any parameter. So this is what we have. Now you can copy this interface name. Let's save this. Let's go to the implementation class. Now you see that this contains the method name, but there's no implementation. So let's go to the repo, and now here let's inherit from that interface. So let's implement all the interfaces created. So we can generate constructor first. So from that, we can implement all the interfaces. Let's inject our app.db context class inside this constructor. So app.db context. So let's initialize it. So create an assigned field. So here we have to check. So if model coming in is not equal to null, or this is what we can do. If model equal to null, then we want to return new response. And now here success is equal to false. And message, we can write something. So here is supposed to be comma. We have message is equal to no content. So return this new response. So here must be an await. Okay. So cannot create a return new response. Okay. So this is what we have to do. We have to create response equal to new response. So return, let's use this. Response equal to or you can create so let's say var response is equal to new response. So we can clear this off. So here must be an async. So let's see. So let's return new response instead. So return new response this. If it is not equal to null, then let's see. So let's first check if the data it is found. So we can check that using ID or using the name of the. Can we use the name? Because when we talk about, we want to check if the data is not. So we can use maybe a code or something like that. Because we have an ID over there and default that is set as a primary key. We also have the name and we have the other attributes or properties for the house entity. Now, if you want to check first if it is found, so let's check if the data here it is found already. So let's use the name. So let's use name. Now, in this name, let's create a private. So private, and this is going to return just true or false. Okay, and it's going to receive. So let's say it's check name. So string name. Then in here, so this is task. Okay, so this is going to return name, and let's say so not all code. So control all, we go to edit, format, selection. Okay. So we say that var check, or let's write does exist. So let's make this change here, task. So does exist is equal to await. Now appdb context dot houses dot where. So h, that's the house mask 2, house dot name dot equals to name. So dot to lower. So let's convert this also to lower. Dot to lower. So dot first or default async. So this you have to include entity framework core. So let's say return that exists is equal to now. So if that exists is equal to now, then return false. So that is false, else return true, meaning it exists. Okay, so here we are saying that we are going to scrap through or go through the database whereby name is equal to what is coming in. In case it is now, it means it doesn't exist. Return false, because this does exist. So this does exist means false means it doesn't exist. But in case that, then return true. So that's our statement. Now in here, we're going to check. So if we call this check name. So we call this check name. Now this check name, it needs a string. So we pass in model.name. So here it's going to return true if exists. So we say if it doesn't exist, if the result here is not exist, or when you call this method and the result here is true, what should happen? Let's use an await here, because it needs to await because it's a task. So we need to await it. Now if it returns true, meaning the file exists, then we want to return. Let's grab this. Let's paste it beneath. And now let's say, so data added already. So if it returns true, but in case it returns false, then we're going to now add it. So we say appdb context dot houses dot add so add, then we have to add this model. So let's say with await appdb context dot save changes, you have to use an async. Then we can now return. So default success is true, so we don't want to override that. And here we can say that data added done. Okay, so that is a way. But you see from here we have error. Why? Because it cannot convert from this DTO to the model, the entity. So that is where we need our converters. So let's see. Let's create a folder here and let's add it as converters. So this is converters. So this converters, let's add class, new class, and now we convert from. So this is from DTO, to, okay, so let's make it so from DTO to entity. So from DTO to entity, and now the next one is going to be from entity to DTO. So new class, and this is from entity to DTO. So as I speak now, where we are is we are converting from DTO to entity because we want to save to the database. So from DTO to entity, we open this, and now let's create a method here. So this is task. So this is task, and this task must return house model, because it is from the return type here is going to be the entity. So let's include this. So convert to entity. Then here we're going to pass in the DTO. So that is house request DTO as model. So our models, and let's open it. So let's format this. And now in here, we also want to check if model is not equal to now. That is where you want to perform this. Or the check is not important now because we've checked it already. So let's go move on. Now, to skip all this hard work, that is why we are supposed to, or you have to use AutoMapper. AutoMapper does this beautiful job for you. But in this video, we are not using AutoMapper. Okay, let's do the manual way. So we create var and this is what we can say. So return new house. Then this new house, let's populate the house. So edit, format, document. So let's see. Now it is saying something, cannot convert this house to this. So this is what we have to do. Let's create var house is equal to new house. So this house, and at the end, let's see, return house. So let's see what happens here. Now it is also saying that it cannot convert from this to that. Now let's use an async. So no, she's supposed to be here. So return house. Now this is going to return this house to this. So let's do it now. Since it is converting, so we say name is equal to model.name. Then mode is equal to model.mode. Price is equal to model.price. Then we have description. So we are not having description for now. Let's say image is equal to model.image. let's go to the entity and see what we have. So name, now type and location, size also. So type is equal to model.type. Size is equal to model.size. Let's put it in under column. Okay, so now aside from having the size, we have size of bed, or the number of bed. So number of bath is equal to model.number of bath. And number of bed is equal to model.number of bed. Do you have any left? Let's check again. We have image size, location, price. Okay, so let's location. Now location is equal to model.location. Okay, so I believe that is it. Now edit format. Okay, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now when you check this, let's see, there might be 11. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, so ID and date created is not part from this request. All right, so we have this. Then at the end of the day, we're going to return this house. So when you call this method, the output is going to be this house. Okay, we're going to return that. Now let's save this. Let's go to our house repo. And now in here, we can now go in for, so model is not model. Let's see, response. We have response as a, so let's use results is equal to await. Then let's call this convert to DTO. Let's check the converter's name. So from DTO, so from DTO to entity. So here it needs a model. So you pass in the model. Now let's see so it is saying that cannot use like a method. So let's create an interface for it and see how this is going to work. So let's add a new file. It's an interface. That's an I from DTO to entity. And now with this, let's copy this. We go to from this class. So here, let's inherit it. And now we're going to create method name. And let's paste the method here. Okay, so let's call this method. And let's see. So this is saying that it's a task. So let's, from this I, it is coming from the house, convert. So in this, Let's see the implementation. So implement the interface. So it is implementing it explicitly by calling the method name here. So now let's see from the interface here. So you have task house, and that is the name of the interface, and it is coming in with this. So we go to the class, and now we have this. So let's cut this. Now we can paste this here. Let's remove. So we have okay. So edit format document. So here might be public async task, and they say that this is not valid, so we can let's maintain. Then we can use some async here. Okay, so now let's try with this from this D2 and see. So now we have the I from this interface. Now we have this, so we can grab this, convert to entity. Let's go to house repo. And now let's see what happens here. So result is equal to. So let's see what we can do if we can include this. So since we have created this, so let's create this and inject it the interface. So this is supposed to be, let's remove the task. So it is going to return a house data. Then we go to the implementation, and here too we take off the async and take off the task also, and this is now returning a house here. So we go to edit, then format document. So now we are done with this. Let's go to the house repo, and now let's inject it here. So it is I from D2 to entity. Then let's inject it. Let's initialize it. So create an assigned field. So now we have this. Now let's grab this, and let's say so here we can say var result is equal to, then we call this dot, so convert to entity, then we pass in the model. Then let's pass the results here. Yeah, so that is it. So we are done with the add. So remember that we created the interface, and the interface has its implementation from this D2O. So this is implementation, and now we are using, or we injected the interface into our project, and we started using it. That is where we have the house repo. Okay. So this is going to add the data to the database. Now, if you see, when you check the other side, we have a lot interface to work on. If you check the iHouse repo, now we have done the first one. So we have to talk about the update, the delete data, get single data, and also get all data as well. Okay, so we're going to convert also the update, but the rest, there's no conversion here. We're going to convert, it's only the add house data and also the update, because here it is a house request and this is the house response. Okay, so this is a house request and this is also a house request. But you know, where this is coming in, we have to get the data as well. So here, inside of this response, as you can see from here, this response, we are going to create also a house request response from this angle, so we can also convert it. So here, instead of this house to return, we want to return a response instead. So house request. So this is going to be house response BTO. Okay, and this is also going to return a list of the same house response. So let's grab this and now we paste this here. So that is this one. Now let's go to the update. So how do we update house data? So we have to, with the update data house or update house data, you can see here it is requesting or it's passing house request DTO, and we are going to return a response. So in here, let's go to our repo. Now that is, so add is done. Now let's see, we have error here. Let's try it out and see where this error is coming from. So from this, we go to the interface, and this what, so we must pass in this response, this return value, or that's a T value here. From this, get single and also get all house data. So let's go to this side, and so first of all, I want us to copy this house response DTO, and now let's go to the response here. That's the house repo, and so there's a constructor. Now we have, let's close the constructor here, and the add method too, let's close it. Now with the get all, it is for list, so we're going to add as a list. Now get single also going to be list as well, and then that is it. So here, this is what we're going to do. So with updates, you will see here we are going for house request DTO. Now house request DTO is going to come when you check the model. This model comprises of the name up to the image. So let's add the ID, because here we definitely need an ID. Else we have to create a model, a DTO which has the ID. So let's add the ID to this. So this is integer. And that is going to be the ID. So this is ID. So we come back to this. This is the request DTO. So now when we are passing this, we want to get the data from the user. So let's see this, what we want to do. We go to our repo here, and now this is what's coming in as a house request DTO. So first of all, we check if model is equal to null. Then I want to return no content. So let's return this. I have to return no content because it is requesting, it's sending a request response as a T value. So we have to send it. Now this must be an await. Now async. So async task response. So we're going to return a new response with node content when the model is none. So if not, then what can we do? Let's get this data. So let's go for single data here. So first of all, to go for this, we're going to create var house. So we have var house is equal to await app.db context dot houses dot first or default async. So h house max to h dot, and that is an ID is equal to the ID coming in. So we can just create one method here to return this. So let's use this lambda expression to get that. So we're going to use this fat arrow here, and that is going to return this. Okay. So await app.db context dot have the special default, whereby ID is equal to this ID. Now it is saying cannot convert type to this. So here it is requesting a house response DTO, and now so we must convert this. So let's use the fat arrow here, and we have to convert this to. So let's see. Now in here, let's clear this. Okay. So let's store this. So we say var result is equal to await app.db context dot houses dot first or default async. We get the ID. Now when we get the ID, we have to return this. So we have to convert this so that we can have a response at this. Okay. So let's do that. So let's say var, and let's go for this. So that's a response. So we have from DTO, from entity to DTO. So that is what we have to work in. Okay. Now this is from, so we have to create an interface for this. I from entity to DTO. Now you see this I from DTO to entity. So let's create a response in this. So let's actually copy the first name. So from I entity to DTO. So let's copy this. So rename. Now you can grab the content. Now I click here, add new file. And now there's an interface. So we paste this, and now we add the interface as I from entity to DTO. So in here, we're gonna need response. So you're gonna need house response DTO. So house response DTO. So this, then you're gonna come from, so convert to DTO. So convert to DTO. And here, we're gonna use this as house model, and it's coming with this model. So this is house, and coming in with this model. So house control period, let's include this model namespace from this entity. So use this entity. So we have this. Now let's go to the implementation, and now you can actually copy this. Go to from entity to DTO. Then let's inherit from this. So let's inherit. And let's see. So first of all, let's clear this. And now we have to inherit from this. So let's paste this. Now let's implement the interface. So we have an interface implemented. And in here, we have to, so this returning this. So let's say return new house response BTO. So in this, let's format it. So edit it and go to format document. So with this, we're going to say ID. So ID is equal to model.id. Then name is equal to, so the same thing. So let's go to the side from this DTO. Now let's copy the same thing from here. So we go to this and let's paste it from entity to DTO. So let's paste this here. So we see it is the same. Now we have name and model to this house, this model from this house response DTO. Okay. And now with this two, we can, in case you want to add dates. So that is, there's an update. So update, you don't need the date. That is, if you want to get all, that is where we're going to use an update from this area. Okay. So now we have this. We are returning this. So when you're going to record this method, convert to DTO, you're going to pass in an entity. Then the output is going to be what a DTO. Now let's inject this. So we copy this, we save it, we go back to the house repo. And now in the constructor here, let's inject it here so we can initialize it and use it. So let's paste this. And now that is, so from entity to DTO, then let's initialize this. So create an assigned field. So we can now grab this. Now the first one is from DTO to entity. The second one is from entity to DTO. So when you go to the update, from this get single data, we can say that. So let's see if return dot convert to DTO, then we pass in this result. So this result is going to convert, or is going to be converted to this entity as request, response, then it's sent it. So when we call this get single house data, we are returning what the house response DTO. So when we go to this update, let's first check here and see. So we say var data is equal to, let's call this method in here. We call this method, then we're going to pass in this model. Because here you can pass in, let's pass in this model dot ID. So we pass in this model dot ID, and we're going to get it over here. So here, the data can be null. This data here can be null. And because when it comes here, it's returning. And in case you couldn't find the data, you're going to return null here. So let's make a check. So if data is equal to now, then let's also return new data not found. Let's return this. So let's return data not found. So not found. So that is what you are returning. But in case it is not now, then this is what you want to do. Then you have to update this data. So under updating this data, let's do it ourselves. So we can say data dot. So in this, we store the data here. And when we call this data, can we update it? So if you want to update it, then unless we do it ourselves. So let's say data dot so before we do this, let's create a separate method here because we don't want to make this method too long. So let's try to have a method over here. So private, then this is going to return, let's say bool. So let's say this is a task. So this has to return a bool, either true Okay, so let's clear this. So this is an update. Let's call this update. So there's an update. So this update, we need a house. This is a house request model. So we need this request model first. And also, so that is what we need to update it. So this is what you're going to do from this area. Let's create var result. So result is equal to await app db context dot houses dot first or default. Then you pass in x max to x dot id is equal to this model dot id. Okay, so we get this data because you need not to check everything because it has been checked over here from this get single. So it has been checked already from this area. So here we just got the data from database using this data context here. Now what we're going to do here is results dot name. So it's equal to this model dot name. Results dot image is equal to model dot image. Then results dot price is equal to model dot price. Okay. Then results dot location is equal to model dot location. Result dot mode is equal to model.mode, and results dot name of number of bath is equal to model.number of bath. Results dot number of bed is equal to model.number of bed. So let's see results dot size is equal to model.size. Results dot, what else do we have again? We have all the others and we have them. So when you count it, they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8, let's see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So type, we have to get a type too. So results dot type is equal to model dot type. So this is supposed to be like this. Okay, so let's edit format document, and now we have this. Okay, so now we have this. What can we do is we have to save this. So we say app.db context, await app.db context, but save changes async. Then return true. So after saving all this, it's going to return true. Okay, so what we can do here is we have saved it. After saving, return true right here. So in this, when we call this method, it is going to return true. So this might be a class. So when we call this method, this update method is going to return true. So when it's true, meaning it is fixed. So we say if await update. Now this update demands has request ETL. So we pass in this model here. So if update model, so if it is equal to true, then what do you want to do? So meaning we have to return a response from this area. Let's copy this. So if it is true, return a response. Facet is equal to true. So the default facet is set to true already. So we can clear this, and we can now say that update done or data updated. Updated done. Okay. Else we're going to return a problem. So else return success false. And this message is going to be okay. So that's also our update. Okay. So you can see we are returning a response at the end. All right, so once you are done, now these are all private. This is private, and also this is check name, and it is also private. That is the updates. Now let's go to get single data. Get single data 2, we are done because we are done doing this. So you can also minimize that. And here is get all house data. So this is a list of house response DTO. So we have to convert this into house response DTO. So this is what we are going to do. We're going to create var data, or let's say house list. House list is equal to new house response DTO. Okay, then we get this var result, a single one, from this. So in here, let's go in for var result is equal to await app.appdb contest dot houses dot to list async. So instead of returning this, let's see. Let's create a method here. This method is going to accept a list of house data. We're going to accept it. And it's going to come out with house response, a list of this response DTO. So let's go to, and that's also from entity to DTO. So from entity to DTO, let's go to the interface from entity to DTO. And now here, we're going to come out with a list of house response DTO. So convert to DTO list. Then it means list of house model, and we call this as models. So let's go to the implementation. So from entity to DTO, let's implement the interface. So implement interface, and that is this. So here we're going to look through all this. So let's create one new list is equal to new list of house response DTO. Then let's use for each, and you can say for each house in models, let's edit this format document. So this coming out with a list here, and now we say so let's see. So type identifier above required in for each statement. Okay, so if not, we can say var item in model. We create a temporal one. So temp data is equal to new house response DTO. And now in this DTO, we have to populate this. Let's paste this here. So we are converting the whole list. So when returning the list, we can decide to return, they have to return the ID too. So instead of this model, we're going to copy this item, place it here, place it there, here too. We have to place it all over. Anywhere that you have model, we have to change it to the item, because that is what we are looking for to get. So once we have this, at the end of the for each, we're going to say new list dot add. So new list dot add. Then we pass in this temp data. And at the end, we have to return it. So let's return this new list. Or we can return it here. Return new list. So we get the list, we create an empty container. We get the list from this model as an entity. We look through this entity. We create a temporary data object for this house response DTO. For a single data, we populate it and add it to the list that we have created here. And at the end of the day, we return the new list. So let's go to this house repo, save this. Let's go to this house repo. Now in here, we are getting the whole list from this data. So we're going to return. Then we can now use this entity. So from entity DTO, copy this. So return this dot convert to DTO list. Then it demands a model, a list of our houses. So in that, we pass in this result. So pass in results. And that'll be all. So it's going to return all. Now, when the list is now, we're going to return now 2. So that is for get all house data. Now let's go to the delete. So delete. Let's first check if ID is less than or equal to 0. Then you want to return this. So let's copy this. Let's return new response. Success is false. And now we can say that no content ID. This must be an async. Else, what do you want to do? So var result is equal to await get or has single data. So get has single data. So let's paste this. And now with this, let's pass in this ID. So we check if result is equal to now, meaning the data is not found. So if result is equal to now, so you can say that data not found or no content ID found. Okay, so that's quite different from the first one, this last one. Now here it is when the ID is less than or equal to 0. So if you do not pass in ID and want to update, that's going to have an error. The second one is when you pass in ID and it gets to the database table and couldn't find the data. So in this case, there's going to be no content ID or no data found. So no data, you can use no data found. If it is not equal to now, then let's call a delete. So with this delete too, we can create a private here to handle the delete for us. And this also is a private async task. This is also going to return do as well. And that is delete, so it needs an ID. So let's format this, edit, format document. So var result is equal to await app.db context dot houses dot first or default over x max to x max to ID is equal to this ID. Okay, so now we have checked the data already from this area. And now what we can see here is result is here now because we are saying that the result is equal to now, which means data is not found. Then you want to return this. So as we speak, the data is found. So if data is found, then this is what you want to do. So app.db context dot houses dot remove. Let's pass in this result. Okay, So then let's return true when it is done. So after removing, we have to save changes too. So I wait app.bg context that save changes async. So we have this. And even here, we can check for entity. Okay, we can check if the entity here, or if the ID is greater than 0, it means it has been removed. You can do that. But here, I think it's going to work. So let's maintain this. So we call for this delete method, and it's going to return a tax of true. So in here, you can say if await delete. So this is going to return true. So if await delete. Now with this delete, we need to specify, let's say, it needs an ID. So you have to pass in this ID as a parameter. Now if this is true, then it means it is done. We can return a response here. So return success is equal to true. Let's clear the success because it is defaultly set. And now we can say that data successfully deleted. Okay. Else we want to display error occurred. So else we want to display error occurred. So we put up this. Then we can now save this. So that is a way to create a delete. And also we have the async task. And you can see we have the delete house data, get all house data, get single, update house, check name, update, and also delete. So all this comes together to make our service, our repository, active. Now that we are done with this, the next thing that we can do is to create our controller, and I call this service in the controller. So before we create our controller, let us first register the services and also the repository that we have created. So let's go to program.cs in the server project and program.cs file, and that is over here. So the first thing to do is builder.services.add scope. And now in here, you need to pass in house repository. Then it is house repository. Second, builder.services. We have to add our converters. So .add scope from DTO to entity. Then it is from DTO to entity. Then data.services.add scope is I from entity to DTO. Then it is from entity to DTO. So we have our services being registered. Now here we call something DI, that is dependency injection. Now what does dependency injection mean? You could say that all the following here, they have an interfaces and they have the implementation. The interfaces contain the method name, while the implementation right here contains the definition of the method. So when you call the name, we have to attach a definition to it. So it's like we are calling the name over here and we are attaching its definition. So anytime you create an instance of this interface, you make sure you have to attach an instance of this repo too, so they can go hand in hand. So when you call a method from this interface, it can have a definition from this. That's very simple. Okay, so once you're done with this, let's save that. Let's go to our controller and now let's create our controller here. So new file, and we go for controller. So that's a web API class controller. So the name here is going to be house controller. So click on create. Now you see default, we have this data over here. That's the default. So delete, but we're going to just clear all this and maintain or create our own. So let's first create a constructor. So generate constructor for this. Now in this constructor, what you need to do here is you have to call this method. So you have to call I house repo. Then it is house repo. We have to inject this. So let's initialize this. So create an assigned field. We have this. Now the first method is, let's try to get also HTTP get. So this is public async task, and here it gives us a list of, this is house response DTO. Okay, then this is get house list. So here we are going to call this. So let's edit this format document. So we say var result is equal to await house repo dot, and you see you have a method known as get all house data. So you can say return results equal to now. Then if results equal to now, return not found. Return not found. Then results. Okay, so we are not having here. So return not found. And you can say no data found from the database. Else, what you want to do, return okay with results. Now that is it. Let's see what we have here. So it is saying that, so cannot implicitly convert the type not found object results to list. Okay. So let's see, we have to, so var results equal to await. We must have an action results here too. So it must be like this and problem solved. The next thing is HTTP get, and here we get single, and that is ID. So with this, it is also public async task, and now we need to for house response BTO, and now here we say get single house. Then we're gonna need an ID. The ID that is specified as a parameter from this HTTP web. You have to pass the same ID over here. So now with this issue, I want us to fix it once and for all. Now let's go to Visual Studio, Preferences, and the environment. You see we have keyboard shortcuts. Now we are the custom. So let's see if I can have format document, and I want to use Control Alt plus F to format it. Okay. So if I click Control Alt F, I must have it formatted. So let's return. So results is equal to await house repo dot get single house data. Need to pass in the ID here. And you can also return results equal to now. If yes, then return not found. You can also, let's grab the same content here, and now you can paste it. That's all. Here must also be action results. Problem also solved now. Now the next thing here is to delete. So you're going to use an HTTP delete. And now with this, you need to specify an ID. So with this, we have public async task. action results. And now this is response. So here the response, and that is delete data. We need an ID. So let's include this response model. So this response model, the var results is equal to await house db or house repo dot delete house data and the passing ID. So this also return a response. So you can check here if results dot success. So meaning if this is true, then return okay and return the whole result. If it is false, meaning if you couldn't delete, then return not found. And this is going to come up with a message. So we also pass in the same result. Now the next thing is an update. So HTTP, we're going to use put. Now with this put, public async task, and this is coming up with a response. So action result, and this is coming up with a response. So that is an update data. And here, it has to come in with house request DTO, and that is model. So we can check it up here first. Also, before it gets to the data, we'll say if model is equal to now. If this model is equal to now, then let's return no content. So here you say you take this, then let's return no content. I think I have it here. So return no content. Okay. Now this content, we can return something like new response. So success here equal to false. Then I'm gonna have our message is equal to no data content provided. So let's see. So it says that no overload method for no content. So you can return just no content, just like that, because you can't overload this. And let's see. So this is going to return a response, that is a task, action result, and a response here, update this. So if model is equal to now, we want to update here. Now let's see how it's supposed to see like this. Okay. And now let's try to evaluate it and see if that won't work. Yes, so that one won't work. And there's no content. You can't pass in any data. And this is also not found. So you can, let's remove that. So return now if the model is empty. Else we can var result is equal to await. So house repo dot update data. Now it needs house request BTO to pass in this model. So here, now we have results called as this. Now in this result here, when we go to this update house, that is our repo house repo, this update, it is coming out with a response. So when we expand this, you will see are returning success here. That is when the update couldn't be made, the success is 44. Now if update is successfully done, success is true. Okay, so that is the same thing that we are doing in the controller. So now you can check from this angle that if, or you can say return result is equal to, so let's see, let's use if result dot success, then if it is true, then return, okay, then pass in result. And that result is going to have message over there. Else return not found. Now passing the same result. So the message for each is going to be different, as indicated in the update PTO here. You can see the message here, if it is successfully done, you're going to return data updated as done. If it is not, you're going to have error occurred. So if it is true, this is going to show as successfully done. When we go to our controller, if it is true, display okay. If it is not, then use not found. Okay. Now the last thing that we have to do is to add. So that is HTTP post. So public task, extend task, action results. Then I'm going to come out with the same response. And that is add data. And here we need to pass in house request BTO as model. Now, so we can do the same thing as this. So let's copy this. because it is the same. Let's paste this here. So if model is equal to now, then display no content. If not, hash repo, this are not an update, but rather it's add house data, you pass in this model. So let's see. Now it's saying that cannot convert from house response DTO to house request DTO. So it is supposed to be request, not response. Yes. So if is resource got success, display this. If not found. Okay. If not, then here must be an error. So when you have an issue here, you're going to not found. So here's going to be, let's use bad request. So we can use bad request as this result. So the same thing that we can also use this. So if it's equal to now, then no content, it's okay. Or we can use bad request. So any of the HTTP type you can actually use to grab the content. Okay. So that is what we need to do. We can clear this, basically use this. And also clear this too. So we have a controller and we have a repo, and that is our interface injected here. Now what we have to do here is we can run this to test our API, and also we can include it in the client section, create a service to render this repository that we have created. But first of all, let's test it in the controller, the API first, and see. So let's build this again. After building, then we are going to run it to see. So let's wait. Whilst it is building, as you can see the progress bar. Okay, so it's almost done. We are there. So whilst we wait, let's go through and see. So we've done all now built successfully. Now let's run this application and see. Okay, so one thing I just remembered, now you see that our table that we created has no data. So when testing this, it will be very difficult for us to test. So as you know, I am using the Azure Data Studio, and that is a Mac. So I have my database open, and I want us to pass in some default values in it before we test our application to see whether our DTOs and our services and the controller, they are all working. So let's pass it now. The name of this here, let's change it to, let's say this is. So let's say this is house name. And now the mode is house mode. So let's use those house mode. Now this house type. And the price is, let's pass in any price. And location. So house location. Size. Any number at all. So number of bed, number of bath. Now image here, that's the string. So have image, has image, and now the date created 02/02/2023. Now let's go to the next one. So for the ID, we need not to pass in ID. It's going to be by data going to be created by the application itself, because that is not, it's an auto number. So house name 1. And now house mode 2. So house mode 2, then house type 3, we have price, and we have location, house location 1, and the size is over here, number of beds and bath, image, so house image 1, and 03, 03, 2023. Okay, so let's run this query. Okay, so we've run that. Now let's go to this place and let's create a new query from our database. So let's create a query. So select star from, and it is houses. Run this query to see the current table that we have. We have one here. Let's see if we can actually add one more. So house name 1, it means the first one didn't work. And house mode 1, house type 1, and that is the price, location 1, size, number of beds and bath, so image 1, and 02, 03, 2023. Okay, so let's run this. Okay, so when you go to our query, when you run it again, let's see the tables or the fields that we have. Okay, so we have 2 fields now. Now let's go to application. Now we can run it to test it our API. So let's click on this and wait for this to get run. Then we see how to test our API and get the 2 data that we have created in a database table. We're able to do that, it means it is working. And what we have to do again is to link this application, this API that we have created, to the client, which is the Blazor WebAssembly, to get data from it, and also to that's a request, and also send data, get data, send data, get data, send data. Yeah, so that's what we're going to be doing. Now let's wait for this to get loaded into the browser, and we check if it is working. Then we know what to do next. So the application is now loaded. Now let's expand it, cover the whole screen. Okay, so let's create a new tab. Now, when you run API, web API in Windows, you have more hands than in Mac, because you can use an endpoint to test an API, but in Mac, I'm yet to see where the endpoint is. Okay, so those who know where the endpoint is, you can let me know. Okay, so let's create a new tab. Then you can grab this link here. Let's copy this. Then let's go to the new tab that we have created. And let's paste it. So API, the name of our controller is house. So this is going to get all data about house from the database. Now let's see if this is working. So we can right click here and we can inspect elements to see the header and all the other properties that are featured that this link here is getting at. So let's wait for it to get loaded from our database. So when you check our network section, when you go to that's the F12, developer 2. Now if you click on our network tab, let's see the response from the database. So that's our network. So you see from here that we have all the data, the 2 fields that we have in the database, you see we have them. Now if I go to network and I run this again, let's see, I'm going to have it over here. So that is the house. So if I go to preview, you can see I have the data over here, and currently we have 2. So that is it that we have over here. Now let's find 1. So the ID is 1, and here we are specifying the ID as 1. So let's see the response here. So the response here is saying that unhandled exception while processing the request. Let's try again. So it means 1 here is not found. Let's see 3. Okay, so we have 3. Now it means you have to use try catch to handle those errors, because if you see from here, we have the ID 3 and 4. So when you pass in 2, if I pass in 4, we are getting the 4 value. But if I pass in 5, that is more than 5, let's see, we're going to have an exception here as not found. So we have to handle this exception. Okay, so we see our API is working perfectly as expected, just that we need to try or add try catch block here to handle those errors. So quickly we can actually solve that. Now in our DTO, we can handle that. So it is good to handle codes with try catch to prevent any errors and to handle them as well. So when you go to your converters from entity to DTO, you can see we have this over here, and you can use, so let's wait for it to open, and you can use the try catch here to handle that. So with this, you see I'm returning R, and here return R to be null, so you have to check first. So if you see you have a model, and now if a model is equal to null, then you want to return null. But you see here we are returning all this. So you could check if model is equal to null, then return null. Okay. Or you can use the try catch block to handle that. So how do you use it? You just have to copy this, and I'll use the try catch. You can just copy, highlight this. You can just cut it, and I'll use the try catch block, and we can display any message that you want to use. All right, so we're going to do that later on, but for now you can do it. When we start linking to application, we're going to handle all errors as well. So error handling is also very important in the programming. So we're going to do that. We're going to have time to do all errors handling in this project. So for now, that's what we want to do. Now we spent almost about one and a half hour, I think so. So in this video, I want to end here. Now you see we have able to created our API. In the first video, we created or designed our UI. We created our components from the template, and on this we have our API working as tried and tested over here. So in the next video, we're going to talk about how to link them to the client section, so we can get all data. So instead of having this data from the hard-coded one, we're going to put them from the database, and we're going to get them and then display them over here. That is going to be our next episode or update. It's going to be an update 2, so this is an update 1. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. What I'm doing, just give me a thumbs up and also comment as well. I'm going to leave the source code under the GitHub, so check the description. There's a link over there. Thank you so much for watching, and take care of yourself, and see you next time.